Hi everyone, I'm Jelly Kramer, a UI/UX designer at Sparkbox. Today, I'm excited to talk about the importance of unified terminology within a design system. Something that everyone who has worked on or around a design system knows is naming design tokens is hard. But naming any piece within a system can be just as complex. When creating a design system, we have to consider so many elements. Things like foundations, components, shadows, sizing, files, styles, component properties, doc site content, variants, branching and versioning, tokens, modes and themes, states, Slack channels, patterns, DS team documentation, and even meetings. That's a mouthful. Each of these areas can require careful thought about naming conventions to ensure clarity and consistency. And the challenges do not stop at this high level. So if we dive a little deeper, we can start with foundations, things like color, typography, icons. Naming conventions can get even more complex when we start thinking about how do we differentiate between solid versus alpha colors or saturated and muted tones. And with typography, do we name sizes numerically or use descriptive terms? Each choice can lead to a different interpretation, impacting on how the system is used and understood. This same idea can apply to how we label the system organization. So we have things like Figma, the doc site, internal documentation for the design system team. Consistency in how we name branches, libraries, and documentation is crucial. Vague terms can lead to confusion and hinder effective collaboration within the design system team and with its stakeholders finding the correct information quickly. So it's essential to agree on terminology across the board. So why does this matter? While there may be many answers to this question, I'll be focusing on two reasons: cross-team communication and design consistency. Let's go ahead and focus on the communication first. Clear and consistent terminology improves communication not just within the design system team, but also with the team and its stakeholders. So, cross-team communication within the design system team. This could mean design system team designers talking to design system team developers. Internally, dev design alignment is key. And I won't talk too much here because Osman is going to be expanding on alignment later on. But when it comes to terminology, consistency in naming is important. But it does not need to be one-to-one all the time. Understanding how our different teams interact with different tools help clarify when to apply specific terminology. For instance, a component in Figma may require variants that don't directly translate to code. So we need a thoughtful approach to naming our properties. If we look at a list component, let's say this list commonly has 4 items and it also commonly has 8 items. We may choose to make an extra variant within Figma to support the ease of use of our subscribers. However, in code, it would just be one component whose list is determined by the data being pulled. Having a mutual understanding of what is directly applied to code versus what is a Figma-specific property will help us create a more seamless workflow. Cross-team communication outside of the team could mean design system team members talking to our subscribers. Feedback can be more frustrating if we are talking about the same concept but using different terminology. It can be helpful to understand what terms your user is already using to see if that can influence your design system or your naming structure. Next up, we'll talk about design consistency. Users are less likely to misuse your system if they have a clear understanding of the purpose and function of each component. Effective terminology ensures users understand how to use a system, and if its components are not clearly labeled, users may create designs that stray from the brand guidelines. So let's look at an example. Let's say we are making a design system from the ground up. My teammate is working on a button, and here they have designed out 3 different button states. We've got we've got default, hover, and disabled. Now my task was to design out the text fields, so I made 3 states: resting, mouse over, and inactive. But since we did not discuss naming beforehand, we have inconsistencies. And this small example might not seem like the end of the world. We can just adjust the naming, but what if we had 6 or more designers working at the same time? If I'm a user and I see that some of my interactive elements say mouse over and some of my interactive elements say hover, I might be confused. What's the difference? Why do some have one and not the other? I'm not sure. So instead, let's just be consistent. Once the user learns the functionality of one component, they'll be able to apply it elsewhere. Neither of these naming conventions is wrong, but we just have to agree upon it beforehand. So One size does not fit all. Let's take a look at how different systems name the same thing. So if we look at typography, you could decide to go with t-shirt sizing. So XL, L, M, S, XS. Or maybe numerical values. We got 150, 130, 72, 56, and 32. Another common one is display, heading, subheading, body, and caption. Each of these can work, but it really comes down to how you expect your system to scale and what devices or programs your system will need to service. So if we choose t-shirt sizing, but our system is scaling, what happens if we need another size between large and medium? Okay, well, we can move up large and XL. Maybe we adjust those names and add a new large in. But when does this become unsustainable? With our numerical value, this isn't a huge issue. We can easily add a new number if it's in the system like so. So 90 for 90 pixels. But now we're not aligned with dev, who's using rem. So should we just name it both to keep it consistent? That could work, but it just further shows that we need to have a mutual understanding and plan for naming within the system. And the last one is the use case-based naming. This can solve for both problems we've already faced. It's understood by both teams what each font is for, and we can easily add additional fonts with a 1 or a 2 after the name. But when you start adding in a diverse font library with multiple font weights, these names can get extremely long and sometimes difficult to locate within Figma panels. So you might be wondering, how do I pick a solution? The key to naming a strategy, the key to finding a naming strategy that works for your team is your company's culture, your subscribers, and it allows your scalability as the system grows. So in less words, find one that works for the entire team. So let's quickly chat about how to do this. I won't dive too deep here because many of these points have already been spoken about, but how do we apply all of this to terminology specifically? We've got 4 steps to look at. We got research, try things, standardize, and publish. So if we look at research first, you can see what others are doing. Look at other design systems, find design system articles, there's a lot of help on LinkedIn. And you can also understand what terminology is already being used within the company or your users and possibly add that into your design system. Next up, we've got try things. Now, this could sound a little scary, especially within a well-established system. But as Chris mentioned earlier, a solid foundation is worth the extra work. Try more than one solution and don't be afraid of iteration. You can use playground files to avoid any publishing mishaps, and you can test your new ideas with subscribers or other designers. We've got standardizing up, so understand how your changes will affect your entire system and plan your implementation. You can create a glossary to have a universal understanding across all teams, and you can create documentation specifically showing how to name files within the system itself, and this could be just for your internal design system team. And lastly, we've got publish. Let your subscribers inform you. A design system is only useful if your subscribers can and want to use it. Provide extra support when needed, and publish your changes mindfully so you do not have multiple naming conventions overlapping. In conclusion, a unified terminology is essential for creating a successful design system. By focusing on clear, consistent naming practices, we can improve communication, enhance design consistency, and ultimately create a better experience for everyone involved. Thank you for your time. I look forward to any questions.